also wanted to talk about, David G, since you live in the US and you are an American, something that has been of a matter of concern for us in India is the recent attacks on Indian students, and it's an unusually high number in a small period of time. I think there are about 9 or 10 students. In fact, even as we speak, there has been a recent case that has emerged of a boy from Hyderabad who has apparently, I think, gone missing or something. Um, so, what's going on? And my question is, uh, if something similar were to happen, I mean, there's no outrage in America over this. Americans are not speaking out about it. Um, and instead they're lecturing us on CAA and so on and so forth. Why if just imagine if the reverse were true, if it was American students who were being killed in similar fashion in unexplained circumstances, do you think the American society would have been quiet? um, in the recent case, for example, when the Spanish, influencer who was traveling through India, and unfortunately, the rape happened in a state called Jharkhand, which is like the Texas of India. I mean, why would she be camping in the middle of nowhere? Heaven knows. But this happened, and this made international news. I mean, the whole news exploded internationally. Why don't we see a similar outrage for the Indian students who are being killed in such a fashion in America?
Well, first of all, this news is controlled by a certain group of publications and media in the West, and it's also favorable for the Western foreign policy to keep India down. In the United States today, there's a tremendous increase in crime, homeless people in the cities, stores broken into. There are instances of people being killed, some by people who are refugees. So there's an overall breakdown of law and order, and there are major cases against the two candidates for the presidency of the United States for massive corruption. Of course, they're in their initial phases, so I don't want to say someone is necessarily wrong, but they are unprecedented. And most Americans are worried about that. Even the small town in the American Rockies we live in, suddenly we have homeless people on the streets that we had not seen before. People are moving into gated communities, so they have some security. And the Indian students are a major portion of the education people coming in, of the students, foreign students coming in, and they're doing extremely well. So there's also some degree of jealousy there. But there's no outrage. There's outrage on many things in the country. But certainly the diplomatic realm should be apologizing. The ambassadors, the people who are in the media that's looking at India. Instead, they're giving more attention to CAA than that, which doesn't address any issues of that kind at all, and is trying to protect minorities and oppressed people, particularly those who lost out on the partition of India.
Right. David G, is it true that there is a growth? I mean, you mentioned it just now that there's a growth spurt in violence and drug-related violence in America. Is that really? I mean, we see visuals of that on social media these days. Is it really that pervasive as it seems to be? Is that really such a huge concern right now in America?
It's more than pervasive in America, it's all over Europe. In fact, in countries like Sweden, it's even worse, even UK, even France, even most of those countries. And it's even spread somewhat to Canada and other areas. So that is a major issue, and it's mainly with Islamic groups that have come in. I don't wish to blame anybody. There's not with any Hindu group that has come in. Everywhere we see Hindu migrants to countries are affluent, educated, peaceful, helpful members of the community. There's jealousy as they're becoming successful, but there's no dangers with them per se, quite the contrary. So there is a concern with crime overall. And of course, there's issues of borders, and there's so far no government in Europe, or I should say in Western Europe, or in United States, Canada has been able to address. And now we've had, 7 million refugees coming across the border last year alone without any particular keeping track of who they are or where they go. So we should look at the Indian issue in a broader context. But it's interesting, these are high-level students who have a lot to offer. So it's very sad that they're suffering, whereas others coming in with not so much to offer are having easier time, and why the American media is not addressing the issue. And I think the issue is there is a background jealousy, perhaps even hatred coming up in certain areas relative to the Hindu success on various levels.
I wanted to dwell. I want you to dwell a little bit on that, David G, because my next question would be that do you think that there is an intrinsic, entrenched, I don't want to use the word hatred, but shall we call it dislike of the Hindus in terms of, America being essentially a very Protestant, Christian nation? Has there been a systemic, I don't think Americans think of it a whole lot, but is there something in them that makes them genetically just, not like Hindus? Is you see something like that?
Well, this is a long-term issue that's existed at many levels. First of all, the average American and the Americans living by Hindu communities in the United States are usually quite happy with them because of what they contribute to the community as a whole. There are, of course, those who have been trying to convert Hindus for a long time. In fact, a lot of the Christian missionaries, particularly the evangelicals in India, have long been from the United States. The Catholics, of course, are more from other countries. But even some of them have backed off a bit in the sense that the Hindus have more family values. And there's a few things they respect more, but there still is a big conversion movement. And India, and particularly the Hindus, are the group that has best resisted the conversion throughout
Yes.
history. So that is part of it. There were some issues racially, even in America some decades ago. Now we have a kind of opposite situation, which is very strange. And often, I don't want to say funny, but certainly hypocritical. Hindus used to be accused for being poor. Now they're being accused of having too much money. They were accused for being uneducated. Now they're being accused for having too much educational power. They were looked down upon as unclean. Now they're one of the largest group of the medical doctors in Europe and the United States. And they're a successful community when other communities are having trouble. And the left has gone to the extent of saying that Hindus are white people in brown bodies because they don't want to make other minorities feel that they may be making some mistake, and why Hindus are being successful. Actually, it's because they're making their own efforts, not because they have any special privileges at any level of government
Yes.
or society.
True.
Please remember to subscribe to us and switch on the notifications for this channel. For our other social media links, more content, and to support our work, please visit citti.net. Dhanyavad. Namaskar.